2 years ago. Amazing.
They post that.
Yeah.
Most of their conferences, they do a line, there was like a line activity where they keep you out to like the
Mm-hmm. Did you see like the bottom area where like they have like an extensive like wine collection?
No, I didn't make it to the line because I showed up too late and I was early. Also have to do that. But it was fun. I went on like the small rock pool
Mm-hmm.
and
Just, you mean like the putting green or sort of a hotel or like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, yeah, that's a lot of fun.
like 18 holes. Oh man, I was long. It was fun. Never felt
Yeah, that putting green especially was a lot of fun. The fact that it's 18 holes.
yeah. No, so long ago.
No, this is last weekend. That was last weekend. Yeah, alright, so okay, my roommate and the girls and I'm trying to date. Done around shit like 3 years and finding out here like 2 months ago. I know it's ridiculous. It's like the most bullshit thing. But they're like perfect for a year. So for some reason he just decided to ask her out. So we did cancel. And then last weekend, not this one, the week before, they went to a wedding together. And this was mutual friends. Like she's roommates with the guy that got married. Who's still very good. And so like, on the way up, she met his parents. Going out. And then this last weekend, he flew to Texas to meet her parents. And so it's like if this does not work out, true love does not exist.
What does that have to do with you?
Absolutely nothing. This is I'm living vicariously through my roommate. It's a situation because I've known him for 5 years, I've known her for 5 years, and I've been trying to push the two together for that entire time. And for it to like finally come to me, it's just like this is taking an entire year. That's awesome.
Yeah,
No, because it's infuriating. It's just,
you can do it from the friend's perspective.
but it's just like, dude, you are missing out on something so amazing. You guys can like make beautiful things together, and you are just being held up by whatever it is that you're working on. And I don't know what that is, but you know, working things with someone else is a lot easier than working with by yourself. It's just like, and us. Because almost over 3 years, well over 3 years. Trying to think.
Similar situation in your life.
How I met your mother.
I'm not like
Even as a girl.
her best friend is also like this, like every single person
Both best friends
we're like ingredients need to.
There were so many people.
Her best friend, I'm not his best friend, that's okay. I'm just gonna be also very.
We're not best friends, we're roommates.
No, his best friend is I can't name it.
Yeah.
So, like, it's just, there's a lot of hard work and a lot of people's different agendas to like make this happen too. And it's just so satisfying and it's finally there. So happy. I'm very happy to be able to.
Yeah, I wanted to change that today.
It's only like on my birthday that it's like, oh, I guess that'd be
No,
on
it's
the
good.
now.
It's
It's
fine.
I don't need anything else from you. I'm not. I talked with her at my house also. She was never going to take the first step. She didn't want to ask him out. So I didn't want to give her a chance. There was someone that did not want to give her a chance. And she never was necessarily. Yeah. But whatever. Then he just. I mean, he didn't know that she was like. He had a notion.
3 years?
I was like, dude,
Yeah.
I know you guys are alone in the mountains. The two of you alone. What more of a signal do you need? It's like, I had an idea. You guys are idiots.
All right.
Super.
What's that?
How are you going to segue into class?
I'm not really sure. I was just about to say, and then I'm going to segue Men aren't idiots, or maybe we are, I don't know, but I shall show you input forms and submit events. Look up here, check this out. Yes. So we're going to be covering, we're going to attach a submit event to a form. Forms are unique. We have to do something else when we submit something to a form also. Grab the user input from input using .val. So it's a jQuery method to grab the value that they type in. We will then create elements based on the user input. We're going to do it with color switcher. They'll type in a color name. We'll create an LI. And then the user should be able to click on that LI, right? Change the background color. When you do it, it'll be a list. We'll grab the user input. We'll do it via a list. And then we'll attach a change event to a select. So working with events, there's lots of different events that we can work with. You know, jQuery, events. Let's take a look here. W3 schools, jQuery event methods. Let's see what they have. Click, double click, mouse leave, mouse enter. I just was hoping maybe they have the whole list here. They don't really have the whole list. Maybe event methods. This is the same thing, right? Clear. I'm just gonna say. Oh yeah, here. Huge list of events that you can attach or listen for, right? Events are something that are happening. So something that changes. So what we'll be doing, and changes are like on a drop down. You drop down, you choose something, whoop, it changes. Submit is on a form. You click the button, you submit the things that triggers something. We did .click. But there's also things like double click. You can listen for double clicks. There's blur events and bind. There's like all of these, key press. So sometimes when we're teaching during the day class, they'll do little games for Unit 1 and they'll use the keyboard to like move something around. So I have to know that when I press on the left arrow or the right arrow, those indicate key presses, or maybe key up. I wait for them to press it and let go of it. There's character codes for these things, so I can actually grab which key that you pressed on. Mouse enter, mouse leave, all of these events, right? You don't work with all of them, but you will work with a few of them, at least the ones that we're going over in class. So that's what we're going to be working with. Here's our little lecture for form events, all right? So creating a form. Now, we know we've all filled out up to this age, I don't know, countless forms, right? I don't fill them out every day, but we definitely go to a new site and like fill out the thing, and you fill it out, you submit it, they capture your input, right? So that input needs to be captured, it needs to be sent somewhere, so there's a whole process there. We're not involved with the whole full format of a form because we're not really sending it anywhere, but a form can trigger something to send it somewhere. But we are going to capture it. We're going to control it and capture it. And our HTML forms can have inputs and text areas, selects, checkboxes, radio boxes, submit buttons, a whole slew of things that you can add to a form or not. So a form like this would have an input box, a couple of selects, right? Your name, one or two, checkboxes, submit events, and these inputs themselves, as you can see, like the inputs can have different types, and those types indicate what it will represent. So if I actually took this form, if I just took this, let me just put it into color switcher. I'm just going to quickly put it into color switcher so that we can just see what that would look like. So if I add that as a form, this is what we would get. We'd get an input. Here's our input, right? This is a select. It's a drop down. There's one by default, but there's also, if I drop that down, we'd see two. Here's checkboxes, and here's a button. So an input can actually be a button as well. Okay, go in here and we check, oh, look, 2. We could check on the boxes, whichever box we want. It's a whole slew of these things. We're not really going to go into all of them. We're going to spend our time working on the form portion of it, because we're doing events. But once again, you can take a look at this. It's the same concept, being able to choose what was chosen, okay? And so when we do add our form, we need to add a submit event to capture the form, right? The click event was just like click on the circles. Click on a circle, click on these little things, really easy enough. But in a form, there's lots of fields to fill out, and the submit is the action that is performed once the user has made the decision, hey, I filled out the form. You submit the form at that point in time. So we'll be adding a submit event, and you can see from a submit event, right? You grab the thing, wherever it is. Here we're grabbing the form. I'm saying, hey, form, submit. That's the event. You did click. In this example, they're putting the anonymous function, but for us, we're going to type in the name of the function. We'll call it the name of the function. Just because it's more intuitive. Like you could do it this way, but at our stage, it just makes more sense to kind of break it down. And then you grab the data, right? Now, when it comes to a submit, there's several things that can trigger the submit. Okay, I can just hit enter, and that triggers the submit. We all know that, right? Sometimes I'm always thinking like, why put a submit button when I can hit enter? But the submit button is there to be like, click on this thing, and maybe there's other things that are happening when you click on submit, or at least on that button. But if the user clicks on an input that had a type of submit, it looks like a submit button. A button, which is a button, right, that has a type of submit, that'll trigger it. So the submit is listening for these things. It's almost like this event has attached to the form, and inside of the form, there's these other things. And any one of those things could trigger the event to be like, oh, the thing's been submitted. Right? So I'm not adding the event directly to input. I'm not adding it directly to button. I'm not adding it to enter, but all three of those trigger the event to occur. Right? So let me select this out. We'll do our little code along with our color switcher extraordinaire here. I use this thing for everything, by the way. I'm teaching React. I use it for everything. It's just enough to cover all the basic concepts. So I've already included the form. So we have here a form. There's also an action to the form. The action would tell the form where to go. What do you want to do? So we just went here and I was like, hey, form event. All right, I don't want to go, I just want to see form element. That's what I meant to type. Form element, all right? The form element, all right? So you could have just an input, right? But select, here's the form though. They're showing you all the elements that you could put inside of it. Here's the form elements, here's the form. And this action indicates where do you want to go. Now this is more with routing. For us, we're going to grab the input. But in real forms on websites, the action says when you click submit, where do you want to go? So it's going to send the data someplace. It's going to go through this and kind of grab your data and send it someplace. And it's going to send it to that URL. Okay? So we take the data package and send it to the URL. The URL is listening because it's listening on that route. That's a route. And it's listening on this. And then it does something. Okay? I haven't worked with PHP. Our routes that we create downstairs it would just have stopped at action page. And that would be a route the server's listening in on. But PHP does it just a little differently. It adds a PHP extension. Okay? And so that's what it would do. We grab it and then send it there. We're not sending it anywhere, so our action is really nothing because we're not going anywhere. We don't even need the action for what we're doing, okay? Our action doesn't need anything right now. So I did surround it in the form. So I have this inputs that is a type of text. I put a little placeholder. That's just the kind of grayed out text that you'll see here. Disappears when you start typing, and then a button submit. I didn't make the button a type submit. All it needs to be is just a submit, just a button, and it'll listen to it just as well. Okay? And then we just have some things down here. I changed the IDs to classes here. Not a big deal. Just changing it to classes. And then we're here. And then all of our buttons work. Right? This is kind of what we accomplished last class. Same pattern. Hey, grab the button, add a click event that calls a function, and then the function does the thing. It was the same basic pattern. We're gonna like roll this up today into one function later. So you won't have to do this all the time. We could actually attach an event listener and know which button we clicked on. We don't have to attach to each individual button. I can attach it to all the buttons. And then be like, hey, did I click on the green? Did I click on the blue? But for us right now, we have that form. So we need to grab the form. So I'm just going to, once again, for the sake of like grabbing my elements, say let maybe form is equal to the form, right? It's an element, so I don't need a dot or anything. I don't need a pound sign. Grabbing the element, just like body, is an element, okay? Knowing that you grab the form, right? Always kind of maybe do some console logs. Hey, console log, this is form, comma, form. Once again, just so that you get used to being in developer tools, right? So make sure that you have developer tools open. Open developer tools. Always have it open. Okay? So this is all I really typed out here. Let form is equal to that. Okay? Slacked it out too. I'll try to slack out the code too. You can always just copy and paste what I slacked out. Or, you know, you fork this and you have the original URL, just refresh it. You'll always have the exact thing that I'm typing in. And so we have here, hey, this is form, and it's just like, this is the thing. Awesome. Okay? Not a whole lot going on here. Just saying this is form, 0 length, length 1. Just want to make sure. We got it. Not a big deal. Not a whole lot going on. Now we want to, just going to add some notes here, right? I'm thinking through the process. All right, attach a submit event to the form, okay? So I'm going to walk my thought process through. All right, got to attach a submit event to the form. After I attach a submit event form, here we go, that calls the, I don't know, submitted function or something like that calls the input submitted function. I'm just making up a function. I'm calling it a function name. Okay? Zoom in a little bit. Okay? Then down here I would say create the input submitted. Is it 2 T's? Oh. Is it? All right, I'm going to go back. Add another T. Is it 2 T's? I'm really bad at spelling. It is 2 T's? All right, sweet. Create the submitted function and have it do the following, right? We need to know what our submitted function should be doing, and it's pretty obvious here, right? The minute you submit, it should grab the user inputs. If you type in the color red, grab the color red, grab the color orange, whatever it is. The next thing that we would need to do is to create in LI, assign the LI a background color based on user input, right? So we have to make sure the user could mistype something. If you give them the background color, whatever it is, what if they forgot the D in red and now we're going to assign it, but it's not going to be a true color. We're not going to add any logic here to make sure. We're just going to kind of go with the flow. Okay, so assign the LI a background color and then append the LI to the UL. Correct? I think I left out one step. Can anyone like pick out the step? If I was really walking through this meticulously, I grab the user input, create an LI, assign the LI background color, and the LI to the UL. Did I state anywhere here where I should grab the UL in order to do the event? Is that what you're going to say? Yeah. So there's, when you're doing this general stuff, you'll walk through, and as you go through, you're like, oh man, I forgot a step. I should really add a step. But this is just your thought process. Write it all down so that you have something to think about and reflect upon. You don't actually have to code this thing out immediately, but the more detail here, the detail that I write here, I should be able to get anyone who's new to coding, right? And anyone who knows how to code to come in here and be like, oh yeah, these are the exact steps. Like create a UL and you'd be able to do it based on what you know. All right, so we have these steps. I'm gonna go down here and I'm gonna start doing our thing, right? So I have all our steps here. So I'm gonna say form, I do that a lot, from dot submit. That's the method. What we want to call is the input submitted function. Now, that function does not yet exist, and so once again, we're getting that error. Input submitted is not defined. Not defined because we have not created it, doesn't exist. And our code's like, you want me to call something that doesn't exist? Well, that's a problem. So we'll go ahead and create that function. Function input submitted. Okay, empty parens, and just that. Everything's back, everything looks good, okay? Now, what I like to do also is within, just to make sure that the thing kicks off, I'm just gonna put a console log here and say clicked, or here, submitted, okay? All we're doing is confirming that the thing works, because of what a lot of people do is they'll spend a ton of time working on the code in here, and nothing's happening, and that's because they targeted the wrong thing. There wasn't an error message, but it never was happening on the thing that you thought it was happening on. So if we know that this is a form, and I do click, once again, I could click submit. Oh, bad path. Okay, I could do this. Do bad path again. All right, I'm gonna get rid of, I think we had this problem last week. I'm gonna get rid of this action here. I just wanna see if I get rid of the action, if that stops it from doing the bad path. No. It's not gonna break it like last time, but it is gonna error out for us. So do this, still the same thing. Okay. We're gonna fix that in just a minute. What happens with a form though is this. A form, back in the Wayback Machine of the internet, a form was meant, really basic elements, right? There was just a handful of elements to work with, form elements were part of it. And it was like, hey, when a user submits the form, I got a great idea, why don't we just refresh the page and clear everything, right? Get rid of the user input. Wouldn't that make it easy instead of you doing extra work as Mr. or Mrs. Developer? And they're like, that's awesome, that sounds great. We don't want that to happen. We don't want our page to refresh at all when we submit something, okay? We want to control that behavior. Okay, so we can do that in our form. There's something I did leave out here is that when we do this, there's this thing called an event happens, right? Submit event, change events, click events, and these events have information about what happened. So right here, I just want to test this out. See where it's console log submit. I'm going to put a comma there and say event. I'm just going to type the word event. It's not defined anywhere. Right? There is nothing up here that says events. And I'm just going to submit on this. And see, we'll get that error again. Don't worry about the error. What I want you to do is look down here where it says submitted, and there's an event. This event has information about your event, okay? There's lots of things in here. This thing has hundreds and hundreds of properties. I'm going to clear out. Just going to go back here. I'm going to do it one more time. I'm just going to get rid of my errors. Submit. I'm going to zoom in and see if it'll allow me to expand. It's not allowing me. This error over here is just stopping it from expanding. But if it could expand, you would see that there's 100 plus properties. This is a property, this is a value, that's a property, that's a value. And so there's hundreds of these. So this event says, hey, it was a type of submit, the target was a form, current target is a form, okay? So, let me do this. I'm gonna do submit here too and see, did the current target change? No, current target's still form. Sometimes it'll change to button. That's the current target. The target might be a form. So what we need to do is stop that behavior from happening, okay? This whole refreshing the page, I want to stop that from happening. So there is this, we need to stop the page from refreshing, okay? And we're going to do that by doing this, calling event.prevent default, okay? So I'm just going to put here, we need to stop the page from refreshing, which is the natural behavior of a form, okay? But this form element has additional things, right? This is a method. This is no different, I would say, than .val, .html, .css, .attr, right? They're all methods, they all do something. This does something for us. This event prevent default should, if it's working, stop the form from refreshing. No more of these wacky little errors. The form doesn't refresh, and if I go down here and I clear out my errors and I just submit it again, look, I don't have the errors, and now I can actually see all of the properties that are associated with this. I was wrong. I thought there were hundreds of things, but there aren't hundreds. But some of these have lots of other things. Yeah, like this input right here, I clicked selected form, and look, it has all of these properties. What I'm showing you is that behind the scenes, there's information that we can elicit from an event, from the element, okay? And we are going to be eliciting one of these properties, okay? But this is needed to prevent it from doing it. When it comes to a form, you just have to know that. When you're creating the form, do this, because you don't want the page to refresh, okay? Now that we have that, now that we've put in place the event to prevent, you know, in the end, maybe I would go back here and like edit my pseudocode to be like, you know, prevent the form from refreshing, because now I know that. So as I'm writing my pseudocode, I would make it clear that forms refresh. Got to remember to include that, okay? We can go back later, or we'll just go through it. Now, let's grab the inputs, okay? So we can say here, let input is equal to input, right? Or, well, we could grab the input. Yeah, let's grab the input. Okay. So now that we have the input, once again, I'm just going to console log, hey, this is input, and make sure that we have input. Okay? That's all I'm doing. Oops. Let me get it back here. Okay? Clear out my messages. Okay, I'm going to stop the console log for the submitted, just because I don't need to see that anymore. I don't have any other console logs. Here, I have this one for the form. I don't need to see that. I just want to limit. Now that I've seen the things, I don't need them all populating this. So now I'm going to submit. Well, I'm just going to, doesn't matter what we type in here right now. But if we go down here, I see this is input. So I am grabbing the input. I just want to make sure, like, I am doing the thing. Little stop checks to be like, did you grab the thing? Great. If we grab the thing, then we should be able to do this. Let val, or value, equal to input dot val. Okay? Once again, console log, hey, this is value, and put value. That should be the value that we typed in, right? Okay? Now I'm going to type in a value, obviously, right? Red, submit it. And here, I've captured the value of my submit button. This is value, value is red. We've captured what the user typed in, okay? A handful of lines of code, and we could, in the end, you know, what we're doing is we're doing a lot of like store and grab everything, store everything. We could shorthand this a little bit more, but for the sake of like still learning about variables and doing things like that, we grab the value. There is a second way to grab that value. So the other way to do that, and I'm just going to console log it. Let's do this. I'll do it. I'll show it to you. Console.log. I'm going to say this is event.target.val. Let me just see if this works here. Event.target.value. See if that works. Okay. We type in red. And, oh, it just says it's undefined. So that's not going to work. Other that would have worked. Event.target.value is undefined. Maybe it's input.value. Target. Yeah. So this isn't going to work in this instance. So let me get rid of that. All right. So we have our event stopped. We grabbed our input. We have our value. What do we got to do now? If I go back up here, it's like, hey, create an li. Assign an li a background color based on user input and append the li to the UL, right? These are all steps we still need to do, okay? I'm gonna go just get rid of this console log. I don't need that there anymore. So let's go ahead and, you know, create the li. And creating the li is just a matter of saying let's, you know, li is equal to, there we go, created an li. It's that easy. Without these symbols, you grab an element. With these symbols, you create an element, okay? Sometimes you might see it like this where they, I don't know, they do that, but that's unneeded. You don't need a closing li here. Oh, got rid of it. You just need that. I don't know why it's not working. All right, there we go. So I have the li. And now what do we need to do with this li? Well, we need to give it a background color, right? Assign it a BGC based on user input. Okay. So li dot CSS background color, comma, value. Right? I might, if I had to kind of refactor this, I might change the word value here to V color. That's what we're grabbing. Even though it's a value from an input, this value is specifically related to color, and as I go through the code, it might make more sense to have called that color. This is really basic. We don't have to worry too much about this. Okay, so I assigned it. Cool. Once again, it's not created. It's just kind of there in this world waiting to come be born. So now we need to grab the UL and append the li. Okay. Now for this, I'm just going to do it all in one shot. I'm not going to store the li in a variable. I'm going to show you that sometimes you don't have to do this. It's a lot of work to constantly be like, let the thing equal the thing. We could just do this, right? Dot append the li. That should append the thing. Okay? I'm just going to test it. Red. Look, red button. I do orange. Boom, an orange button, right? So it works. You can even do things like, I can do a hex color. So I can say, I don't know, FFAA12. I have no idea what that color is going to be, but it looks like it's another shade of orange. Okay, so maybe AA, BB, CC. What is that going to be? A light blue. because this is a color, it's a hex color, you can type that color in. You can even do RGB and type in, I don't know, 155, 155, 155, boom. And that's light gray. It'll take any color. Color name, doesn't really matter. If you type in something that does not exist, like hello, well, it's just going to come out as white because that's the default background color of the thing, right? The background color here is bleeding through. It doesn't understand what hello means as a color, so it's going to error out, right? Now, if I refresh this, I saved it and I refresh it, I'm going to lose all my colors. All my colors should disappear that I just added. This is a temporary thing, right? There's no persistence here. It's just like grab the colors, you refresh the page, everything disappears. You don't have access to all the other things, okay? So I'm going to add the color again. So I'm just going to add one more time, just the color. Maybe I'm going to add, I like the pastel colors, so I add pink, right? So here's the thing. These buttons clearly change the background color. This button doesn't do anything, right? Why doesn't it do anything? Any ideas? Yeah. Remember when we created this thing originally, there were buttons on the screen, right? A bunch of things on the screen, and we manually grabbed those things. So these buttons here, right, all of this functionality here, just trying to collapse them all so maybe we can get them all on the same page, all of them existed. So it was easy to say, hey, grab the thing that already is there, give it this thing, and then do the white button thing, right? Oh, wait, there's a blue button too. Grab the blue button, do the thing. But what happens, that's great with static content, like a submit button. A submit button is always on the page, right? It's not like a submit button just magically appears out of nowhere. A submit button is part of the form. It's born with the form, but something like this, the things aren't there on the screen. They're dynamically generated, okay? So there is a way to monitor all buttons and attach an event listener to all of them, okay? Now, here it'll be a click event to do that, okay? And then we can get rid of all of these things, like all these click events. It wasn't practical for our application, especially if we were going to get hundreds of colors. We don't know the user-generated colors. How am I going to go into CSS and create hundreds of colors that I have no idea what you're going to do, right? There's 65 million hex colors that you can choose from, and there's just no way for you to preface that. I mean, maybe there is. There's a CSS file that has 65 million, but you're not going to do that. There's some JavaScript that allows you to do that. So what we want to do here is to add an event listener. I'm going to say add a click event, or add a click event listener to all buttons that exist now or shall come into existence. Okay? Dynamic. And in essence, this is really kind of summing up dynamically created content. Okay? So when we do that, we have to choose how we're going to do this. So I'm just going to go back here. Let's take a look. And this type of event is a .on click. See right here, there's going to be a .on click in jQuery. Okay, an on click event, and we want to do the jQuery way of doing it. That's the JavaScript. Okay, so what it says here is like, hey, attach a click event on click. Awesome. The on method attaches one or more event handlers for the selected elements and child elements. Oh, that's great. So we're saying here, if I grab all the LIs and I do an on click, that should work. Okay. We're going to have some issues with that. They didn't give us an example with it, but it says here, just so that you see here, the selector on the event that we want, And then there's some more parameters like the child selector that we want to listen to. And then ultimately, we're just going to run our little function. We're going to call the function to do the thing. Okay? So let's go back here. This is how we're going to do it. We are going to grab the UL. Okay, now I'm doing this outside of our input submitted function. Our input submitted function has worked already. This doesn't need to be inside of the input submitted function. Okay? And here we're going to say dot on. And we're going to say click. Okay, cool. Now we can, I'm going to say let's just create, without putting the, here, we're actually going to say li, and then let's say change color. All right? Do the change color method. Just going to make sure we should get an error maybe that change color is not defined, right? Same consistent. Don't flip out because that thing doesn't exist. Now let's create function. Let's create the change color function. Okay, change color function exists. And now that we're in here, I'm going to still do the same thing. I'm just going to console log and say, you know, inside change color, so that I know that if I click on these things, I should get that event. Because remember, we still have these events down here to the buttons. But let's take a look. I'm going to go up here. Okay, I'm going to click on a button, and did it look? Inside change color. It did change the color, right? Why did it change the color? Well, because we have these buttons down here that are changing color, right? It's easy enough. Okay. I don't want all these buttons. We did this as a lesson in like how to grab something, how to add click events, and how to create functions. The repetition here was to teach you about functions. That was that lesson. In the end, you wouldn't write that, and that's not efficient, but it's a great lesson when we're doing this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to comment out everything, all those buttons, all the buttons that we had here, everything from let the white button all the way down to that. I'm going to comment all of that code out. Okay? That way the buttons don't work anymore. Okay? None of the buttons work. And I only have this one thing, this one tiny thing. That's like, hey. Now, I'm going to go here and I'm just going to confirm, right? In my terminal, I'm going to click on the buttons and watch. Hey, inside change color, inside change color, inside change color, inside change color, right? It works on all the existing buttons. Well, what if we add a button? Let's add another button, pink, submit that button. Here's the value of pink. We know that that works. And what if I'm going to get rid of all my console logs. I'm going to click on the pink button and look, inside change color. We're able to add buttons and dynamically listen for events. This is what it's doing. The theory here is that the UL is the thing now that has the event attached to it. And the UL is like, I'm going to listen for any LIs that exist now or will be added, and I will attach a click event to the element. That's what's happening here with the on events. If they are clicked, then I will change their color. So in essence, you must grab the parent element first, attach the event to that, and then tell the parent what child to listen to. Well, what is the event? What child should we listen for that event? And then what do you want to do once the event changes? And that's what we want to do. Okay? What's the issue though? I mean, I said inside change color. How am I going to grab the color of the thing, right? That's the problem. Before, our methods over here was pretty, self-explanatory. What we hard-coded this. If you clicked on the white button, I attached an event to the white button. I knew that you clicked on the white button, so it was easy to say white button, right? Hey, white, because I know what you did. I don't know what the color is right now, right? It's kind of out there. All right. jQuery has this JavaScript. This is a JavaScript thing. JavaScript knows what you clicked on or what's the thing using a new keyword called this. Okay. I'm going to put it here just for instance. This keyword knows which element has been clicked on. Okay? Now the keywords, right? Function is a keyword, let is a keyword. And so this becomes this keyword that we can really use. So let's do this. You know, console log, inside change color. How about this? We console log this. Let's just do that. Let's see what this shows us. I'm going to go here and I'm get rid of my console logs. I'm going to click on green. And look, here's the green element. Awesome. If I click on the blue, there's the blue element. Cool. I know what element I clicked on. We can do a few things. One is when we create VLI, we could assign it a class and give it the color that the person typed in, right? And then we could elicit the class back and get the class. Or what else does this thing have that we could elicit back? What does the blue LI have that we could query to get back? That's key to us knowing the background color, right? So how about we do that? So now that we know that this is instrumental in us knowing, jQuery can grab this thing. Like, it knows you clicked on this button. Doing it here would just be as simple also if we know we clicked on the blue button to do .blue or .white. Okay, it's going to convert what you clicked on to that thing. And so it knows that. And so we can grab, and I'm going to store the color because we need the color. So I'm going to say let color is equal to this. And what's the method that we use in jQuery to grab or assign CSS? CSS. And we just say this is a getter, background, color. Okay? Now I'm going to do that. I'm going to move this console log, and I'm going to put it below this, just so that I have one console log, I don't have many. And I'm going to say color. Okay? So inside change color, this we already saw. And now that we grab the color, let's just make sure we got the color, right? So I'm going to say here pink. I don't know, it's telling me unexpected token. That was, I'm going to submit. There's the value pink. I'm going to click on pink. And look, inside change color, here's the elements, and here is the color. Ta-da. Now, why does this LI have a style associated with it? And the green, let's take a look at the green. Here's the pink one that we just created. Now look at the green one. And let's compare the two. Why does one have a style tag and the other one doesn't? Yeah, one was created ahead of time and it's getting its color based on a class that we gave it, right? That was hard-coded. The other is dynamically generated via JavaScript. So anytime you're looking at the Elements tab on a website and you see style here, there's a good chance it's JavaScript that's doing this. There's some functionality in the back end that JavaScript's like, oh, we need to like add something to this. So here, boom, I'm gonna grab the element, I'm gonna assign it directly to it. Because we could have, once again, created a class of pink and assigned the class of pink, but that's not efficient for what we're trying to do, okay? So we have the color, and now we could assign the color to the thing. And that's all we need. All this other work here, all of these, we don't really need. We just needed this in order to dynamically do it, okay? So there isn't a lot of code here, right? We grabbed the form, we submitted the form, here's our function, we just kind of grabbed the things inside the form, appended, right? We did this last week also, we created things last week, we've been assigning stuff since we learned jQuery, we've been grabbing and assigning colors, right? Okay. Any questions? How are we feeling about that? Yeah.
So the submit function is not.
Are you getting any errors?
I'm just, when I wrote console.log inside the function, it's not.
Okay. So if in here, once again, like that console log is important, right? Because if you click submit or you type in here or you hit enter and it doesn't kick off, then that tells me maybe you didn't grab the form. Did you grab the form? Okay. Did you console log the form?
Yeah, that form is coming out.
Okay. So are you saying when you click on any...
Anything inside that function is not.
Okay, can you shoot me the code and I'll pull it up? It's the only way to do it. Let's take a look. Anyone else getting errors? It should change. Oh, we haven't done the background color yet. Yeah. So I'll pull this up and we'll take a look at Yana's code and then we'll assign the background color. So here it is, right? So let me take a look. I'm going to go to developer tools. Just going to make sure that there's no, let me zoom out a little bit because this is getting annoying. It keeps doing that. All right, so here's the form. And we got form.submitted, input submitted. If I click on this, I do see that you did grab it and you did create it. We haven't changed the, is that what you were saying? It wasn't changing the background color? Because something happens there. I click on these buttons and I see these things changing. Oh, you're saying if we do pink here and I submit it, nothing happens on the input. So I'm going to get rid of these and let's just see. You did let input equal input. Okay. You grab the input, let value equal input.val. Okay, let li equal the li background. Let me just see if you got all they go ul.append li. It looks like it should do it, and it's not. So this form is not being submitted. You're right. So we grab the form. I'm just going to go up here and make sure there is a, all right, so you used your version from last week, which is not the version I slacked out. The version I slacked out had a form here already. All right, the version that I slacked out, I changed the LIs from being like IDs to classes, and I included the form element here, that's why. You can just take all this code right here and paste it, and it'll work. Yeah, just replace the HTML, everything should work. Cool. And the only other thing left to do is what? Now that we have the color? Yeah, just grab the body. Grab the body and do .cs. What's that? Oh, we did define the body up here, right? Okay, yeah, so we just have to grab the body now. We have the body. So we can just do body.css background color and give it color. And that should, one thing, I'm just going to make sure these work. If those work, this should work, and everything works now. Okay, I'm going to get rid of developer tools just so we can see all of the code that was here. Okay? Couple of functions, collapse the functions just so we can see the structure, right? Not a lot of code here. And when you're coming up with your code and you write some of this, create the structure. Like, hey, I'm going to create the functions, just console log, make sure the things are in place, and then start piecemealing this thing together. Okay? Cool. Keith, you look like you're like, what?
What's the last step?
Oh, to change the color? Right here. This is, so I'll slack this out also, so we can have all the code for that. All right, so that's the code for the UL. I just slacked out this in our Slack channel. That'll grab the thing, grab the color, and then change it. We don't need the console log anymore. The console logs were just there to like confirm that the thing that we're grabbing is there, okay? So, you know, if your project involved grabbing user input, a lot of the times the grabbing the user input is like grabbing an email. I just want to grab the email. But maybe you want the user to be able to add things to whatever, okay? You have to know how to do this. You have to know how to grab stuff and create things. These two things are tied in with JavaScript. Cool. So I'm going to say let's take a 5-minute break and then I'll assign the lab. We're going to jump into a lab where you're going to be doing this. What? Yeah, go team, go. All right. Sure.
Slide images talking about our site with the dots, because in theory these are the same dots.
Oh, it's really kind of the same thing. In principle, it's really the same thing. So yes, so we could go back to the Mars one and refactor it to be like, oh, you clicked on button 1, this dot class, and get the class of the button. Be like, oh, or an ID, right? If we assign an ID to the buttons, grab the ID, know that you clicked on it, and then we'd have to run some conditional logic though. We didn't get into conditional logic. So the fact that you clicked on button 1, just say that you clicked on button 1. What do you do then?
Like bring the image, because it's like here you're bringing color, but
Yeah.
then you bring the background image.
How would you know though at this point in time, where's the background image? Like we grab the content and we dynamically added it. How do we know at that point in time? Say we did grab button 2. How do you'll know you grab button 2.
Then you'll need to have the.
Yeah, you need conditional logic to be like, if what I clicked on is button 2, do this. If what I clicked on is button 3, do this. And so what you can have at that point in time is maybe 4 supporting functions that are hard-coded with content. And you can just call function 1, and it'll change the background color. Call function 2, change the background color. You could do that. But we didn't get to the conditional logic. This is so simple. We don't really have to like if anything because it already has everything we need. But when more content is there, you need conditions. And we're going to get into conditions on Thursday. Okay.
But anyway, the other thing on the dash
Yeah.
assignment was that they didn't use console log as much as they used alert.
Yeah, alert's annoying though
Then
because
you have to,
alert,
like,
you have to click on the alert to get it out. Like it just annoys me that it pops up on the screen and then you have to click something. So for us, I want to force everyone into developer tools. They didn't really use console logs because people don't know what to do with developer tools. This is for newbies that are just kind of walking through what it does. We're doing developer tools because I want everyone to be in developer tools. See your error messages.
So this is kind of, because like the alert seems like clearer.
Yeah.
What would actually happen. Like,
Yeah, I mean, once again, it's just on the screen. We could have changed these.
yeah, just to say alert.
Yeah, we could have said, instead of this console log, we could say alert, right? It annoys me. Oh, is it not working? Yeah, because I have to click on this thing now to like do it. And
Yeah,
for
and
me,
then you have to, like,
yeah, and that's just more clicks.
comment it out.
Yeah, and then you have to comment. So I prefer to do the console logs because you should be in developer tools constantly looking at the output because that's where that forces you to open developer tools right from the beginning. And then if you hit an error, it's right in front of your face versus, oh my God, it's not working. Why is it not working? And then you forget to go into developer tools, which everyone does. All right? Yeah.
When you need to use quotations for certain things.
As in,
As in,
what's the example?
When we're going through this, you don't have the quotations here for this one.
Oh, yes. So quotes are for strings of text.
Okay.
So I'm literally telling the JavaScript that this is a string of text. When the quotes aren't there, we're referencing variables.
Okay.
Like color was
Obviously,
created.
yes, we don't need to put color creation.
Exactly. And this returns back a value that's stored in color. If I put quotes around this, then it will try to assign a background color called color, because it sees color as a string of text, and it doesn't enumerate the value from. When it sees the variable, it's like, oh, wait a second, there's a variable, so let me look inside the variable, grab the value, and I'll use that value.
Okay.
But putting strings here right now would force it to think it as a value of color. You hard-coded it. There's no enumeration here of variables.
Okay.
And this is a keyword. Once again, put it in quotes would force it to be a literal string called this and not the this keyword. Okay? Sweet. All right. Go team. Go team, go. Oh, yeah. All right. Everyone's back. Let me Slack this out. All right. I just made, if you had opened it up previous, I just made a subtle change to it. So open up the one that if you fork the previous one, you open up, we'll refresh your page, this one will change. So added the info that we need to do. So we're going to grab all the elements needed and store them in variables, okay? Those things, like I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, all right, there's got to be a form somewhere in there. There's an input, and there's a UL, right? That's what that looks like. This looks like a UL of LIs. This is an input, and I'm going to assume, because what we just did had a form, that's a form, right? But I'll confirm that by looking at the HTML. And look, oh, here's a form that has an input and a button. Here's a UL that has the LIs, and the LIs have spans inside of them. So pay close attention to that. The LI has a span inside of it. It's the span that has the info. This LI has a span, and it has the info. Okay? So, down here, we grab the form, we grab the UL, and we grab the input. All right, so then we're going to add a submit event to the form that calls the create list item function, which doesn't yet exist, so line 9, we must create the function. That function will grab the text from the input field and store it in a variable, create a new span, assign the span a class of item, okay? So let me just here for when we add the class, it's dot add class, okay? That's the method, and just give it a class name. Add the text to the span, right? Adding text to the span just requires that we use the .html method, and you assign the text that way. Create a new LI, append the span to the LI, append the LI to the UL, and you shall have something new here. Okay? I do have some bonuses. Add a click event to the LIs that will add a class called completed. The completed class adds a strike through. So if we can get an event attached to these, that when you click on it, it'll add a class. That class will put a strike through and simulate, hey, you did the thing, right? And then the second bonus would be add a new transition that will transition the opacity of the new LI from 0 to 1 after it has been appended. It's like doing transitions in the Wayback Machine. It's like, how do I do that again, right? If you can get to it. These are just bonuses. Some people finish it quicker, give you some challenges. Challenge time. It's go time. It's go time. Go team go. All right. I'm going to pull up here our previous thing, right? So let me just pull this. I'm going to grab these things here. I'm going to put them down here so that we could see almost everything that we did. I'm going to expand our function here. This pretty much is everything that we did. Okay? In order to do this, that's what we did. Use this as your context. Don't deviate. Don't Google, like, how do I do these strange things that Joe didn't show me how to do? It's all there. Most of it's there, right? Most of it's there. We didn't create spans, but if you can create an LI and append an LI to a UL, you can create a span that gets appended to an LI, and the LI gets appended to the UL. It's the same process. If anyone was having a hard time getting started, the elements you're grabbing, function, the form, the submit, and the function. Okay. Whoops. What's that? Oh, snap, yeah. I added more code in case anyone got stuck.
But I don't know if it's going
You need to grab that hit and set it to number.
because when we did the green, and then
Yeah. Well, I have to believe that I can set it because the tree. You just have to grab the input again, or grab it as a top level element, and then just set it to number. Send it to empty close. So where's your code?
But I tried to do still.
Oh, I see. So what you're doing is you're grabbing every You're not grabbing the thing that you clicked on. What's the keyword that you would use to target the thing you clicked on? What's that keyword?
Yeah, right. So that would be the same context that you would use for that. So change li, all li's to this, and that should do it.
Exactly, pretty sure it's not happening.
Okay, developer tools.
Yeah.
There's a lot of errors, so clear out the errors. Click on that, go next to it. So click on that. Now, do something again. Not this. Click on submit. Boom, all right, go back now. Do those.
Yeah.
So, that's it. Well, specifically, you would misspell it.
It did misspell it. That's what I did. Yay!
All right, so that was 30 minutes. Did anyone else complete the lab? Because it only looks like 4 clicked on the lab, unless the working on the bonus unchecked completed lab. Now, I had added the rest of the code, I don't know, 7 minutes ago. So the rest of the code was there. You could have worked through it if you hit any issues. It was there just to provide you some guidance, right? I followed exactly what was in the directions, right? Here's the form, you know, grab the needed elements. The form, the UL with an ID of to-do list, the input with an ID of new to-do. That would be three. If you had any question about grabbing them, you console log them and you would have seen them in the input. Just do what I'm doing. If I do it, you give it a shot. If you don't know if you grabbed them, right? I didn't put any console logs because I knew that I grabbed them, right? You know, today we didn't grab an ID, but we grabbed IDs last week, right? It's one of those things. We're going to do things we did last week. I'm just going to expect like, hey, you know how to grab a class, you know how to grab an ID. We've done these a few times. So I'm just trying to throw things in there that if you were or did not know how to do that, you have previous labs that you could take a look at. Hey, let me go back to last week and look at the solution for last week because we grabbed these things last week, right? Same thing. The form, and I'm just, you know, I'm going to follow along with kind of what I put here too, right? Here is what we did earlier. Just trying to show you how I'm trying to keep it in line with what we're doing. Not trying to confuse anybody. And so here is the form, right? And then on line 11, I'm just going to line it up. Line 11, form submitted here, form submitted, input submitted. This is create list app. Identity, right? Here we got to create a function. Here on line 12, we create the function. Here on line 7, I create the function. Cool. Hey, if I did that and I submitted my page refresh, I got that error. Oh, that's right. We need to stop the page from refreshing, so I just put a event dot prevent default. Just put that there. Boom, it would have stopped. Then it's just a grabbing input. Hey, grab the inputs, right? So I'm putting here, I changed it to be text. I didn't tell you what to call it. I'm saying, hey, grab text, because that's what I'm doing. Like earlier, I said, hey, maybe I should have changed that to this value to be color. But since we already grabbed input up here, I can just grab the text from it. Already defined up here. So now I can just grab it down here. Create a span. So once again, we didn't create spans here, but we created an li. Take that same construct and put it over here. It's the same thing. This one's just called span with a span in here. This is an li, which we wind up doing down here anyway. Create a span. Last week when we were doing, you know, the Mars thing, right? We did a lot of like HTML and putting HTML in things. So HTML, right? I even put that down there, HTML. Add a class. I put it down there, the method. Create the li. Same thing, identical pattern, just the naming convention, right? What you're creating. Appends the span, the UL appends, and we had here where I'm grabbing the UL, but you had already grabbed the UL up there, and then you appended it. And then you would have the thing appended. Okay? And so if we add anything here, new LIs get added. And they're going to be sequenced in color because there's a CSS thing in here. Let me see what the CSS is for nth of type. So here's a new one. You know, we've been using nth of type and putting numbers, 1, 2, 3. Here, if you do odd, nth of type odd, it targets the odd ones. If you do nth of type even, it will target the even ones, okay? So not only do you have the ability to target the exact element, but I can alternate just based on odds and evens, okay? And so what I'm, once again, just trying to do, write it out, give you some context, but I have to change it up. If it's the exact same thing, then you're just doing the exact same thing. It's the exact same lab. So without a little tweaking, kind of elicit some of the stuff that you did last week. We have the solutions for those things, so you can always just go back and look at what you did, okay? And then we just had some of those bonuses. I noticed a few worked on it. So add in a click event to the LIs that will add a class called completed. This will add a strike through, okay? That's if you looked in the CSS, you would have seen completed, and then there's a strike through. And then here on line 17 is where we added click events to all the LIs, right? Following the same process, the LIs that existed, the 4 colors that existed on the page, and any dynamically added colors later. We did that here. We saw that in process. Same thing here. I have elements on the page, and I'm dynamically adding elements. It's the same concept. So up here, I would do the same thing. Exactly that's on line 27. I would say, hey, here, I was going to line them up. I would have done the same thing. Hey, I don't know, we already grabbed the UL, right? Is the UL up here? Yeah, so the UL is already grabbed. So I can just say ul.on, click, right? Look for all LIs and do something with that. I didn't tell you what to do. Once again, this is just a bonus. I don't know, add completed, right? That means you would have to create the function add completed, whatever you wanted to do. You call it whatever. Once again, when you're working on your project, I'm not going to be there to be like, call it this thing and call it that thing. Make it do the other thing. You're going to have to work out that logic, but just use the patterns. All right. Here, this is how we determine what color we clicked on or what circle we clicked on using this. So I'm going to use the same thing. That's how we determine dynamically added content. Add class, completed, right? I gave you the add class down here somewhere where I was like, hey, that's how you add a class. You could have easily Googled that. Now let's just take a look. If I click on these things, look. Okay? They all check. Okay? There's no unchecking them. We'd have to like do something where we keep track of the state. That's more advanced to like, was it clicked? Was it not clicked? Right? We'd have to figure out a way. That would take a much greater degree of structure to do that. Okay? Once again, what we just did here. It's really what we did here, just a small nuance, right? Here we, elicited the color from the thing. And then we assign that color to something else. Here I'm grabbing the thing and I'm adding a class to the thing. Right? If I can elicit a property from the thing, then I can clearly add something to it. This grabs the thing, whatever it was. And then the last one was adding new transition to the opacity. Here we'd have to go into CSS and add transitions for that, right? I'd have to do something, just off the top of my head, I don't even know what the solution is here. But here I would have to go to, I don't know, the LI, the item itself, and maybe give it, we'd have to give it a transition, right? The transition property, I'm just trying to think. If we're gonna fade it in when it gets added, we'd have to, I'm gonna say all in 1 second. That's the transition. Now this thing doesn't have it'll have an opacity of 1. So I would say something like this. I would have to do maybe opacity of 0 to give it an initial opacity. And then we can do something where once it's added, we'd have to give it another class or something, right? They're all gone, but they're there, right? If I get rid of this, all of them will come back. So with an opacity of 0, what would we do? Does anyone have any ideas on how you would do that? What could we do to get them there? They all have an opacity of 0. Well, I'm just looking to see if there's anything in here that looks like, I don't see any classes that may indicate it. If I do take a look at the CSS here, I can see that every LI has a class of to-do item. Okay? Every LI has a class of to-do item. So quite possibly, maybe I could have created a class, like an li, that has a class of to-do item, and give it an opacity of 1. Originally, they have nothing, but given a to-do item class, they get an opacity of 1. The transition lives on the li, which means we need to reassign the property that we're transitioning. This is the keyword that does the transition. And so if when we do create the li, I would give the li an add class of to-do item, this should fade it in. Okay? Let's test it out. Test. Oh, it didn't really fade it in. I guess I was wrong. Another. Nope, it's not really fading it in. We gave it a class of to-do. I'm just going to make sure that the element has the class. Here's the span. Yeah, it has a class of to-do item. I'm curious as to why that's not working. This is how you do the.
It gets created with the to-do.
What's that?
It gets created with the class already.
Oh, so that's it.
Transition.
So once it's, yeah, so here it's already created, the transition happened. So, I forgot off the top of my head how to fix that, to edit after it's been created. All right, I have to get back to that because I forgot how to kind of pause it and give it a moment to like be appended and then add the class. Yeah, give me time to think about that one. All right. So that was the form, all right? Attaching the submit event, grabbing the user input, and creating the user, whatever it was, right? Creating the things based on whatever it was that we were told to create, okay? So we then got a huge chunk of that. Awesome. Any questions on it? Was there any like roadblocks? Did you hit something you're like, it's not working? What's that?
Not working for me.
Okay, can you send it? I'll take a look. I mean, if you had a problem, we could spend a few minutes just looking at errors and issues, and then we can resolve something, and you can see how you would go about resolving things. Okay? Just trust me. Learning how to troubleshoot something is going to be just as important as implementing it. All right, so I'm going to assume you still have the opacity here somewhere. Yeah, so I'm just going to get rid of the opacity now, right? All right. What's not working? Adding the things?
Yeah.
If I add a test, nothing adds, right? I'm going to go to developer tools, and I don't see anything. Once again, nothing happens when I'm clicking. Nothing happens when I hit return. What assumption would we make at this point in time? Nothing's happened when I click on anything. I don't see any errors. What do you think? Something about the submit button, right? I'm going to pull it out. There's a lot coming at me. So I'm going to go down to C. Here's the form. All right, cool. I'm just going to put some spaces here. That'll work, but having the spaces kind of just breaks things up a little bit. There's the form. There's the UL. And there's the thing. Cool. Form.submit and prevent default.
To-do list. Wow.
Oh, yep, right here, pound. Missing the pound. So, once again, just to test things out, if nothing happened in here, so the first thing that I suggested is you put a console log, right? That's what I did. Clicked. Put it clicked. If you click on here without anything and nothing happens, then obviously you're not attached. The next thing you would do to verify your assumptions is to do a console log on UL. Did I grab the to-do list, right? Oh, yeah. Or grab these elements, because the form didn't look like it was, right? Did the form? Yeah, the form is clicked, but the UL isn't, right? So if I were to console log just the UL and just say something like, hey, this is UL, and the page refreshes, it's like it didn't grab anything. This is empty. So just fulfill your assumptions here. And we had done that here when we originally grabbed everything. I had little consoles after everything, like, hey, we grabbed the thing. Okay, so that was it. It was just this. If we put the to do there, right, and we test it, test, point, it still didn't do it. All right, so here's the to do. Let's go in and see what's happening. So we're inside click, so I know the function works. Prevent default is working. You're grabbing the input and just making sure we have the right input. Input is new to do, right? Looks good. I would console that, log that also. Here's the span, HTML, add the class. Here's the LI. The LI appends the span, and that. So I don't know why. I'm just going to fork it. Maybe it's not saving it because I'm doing something here. So test, and it's still not doing it. But I'm not getting any errors, so it's kind of weird. So once again, prevent default. Here's the input. So I'm going to take a look and just see, is the thing there? No, it's not being appended, so it's definitely not appending it. Okay. So maybe it has something to do with this append. Li is equal to that. Oh, no, you append the span, right? And the UL is appended here. I'm not sure why it's not working. It looks like it should be working. So do we see anything else? I don't see anything else. Here's the span. Span looks good. Text, text. Boom, boom, boom. It's really weird because it's not appending it. The to-dos. Yeah, I can't even see it. You know it's there. There's something there that's not happening. I just don't see where it's happening. All right? Here's the span. I'm just going to maybe console log a span just to see. Yeah. So it looks like span. That looks good. HTML, add it, give it text. Yeah, that's just really weird. I don't know where it's not doing it. I'm going to grab the UL down here. I'm just going to test this out because once again, I don't know why it's not appending, but I'm going to grab the UL without the ID. There's only one UL up here, and let's test it. Now it works. Okay, so the UL now works. So it's up here, somewhere up here. Oh, here we go. Your UL, the UL has an ID of to-do list, right? To-do, lowercase, list, uppercase. You put an uppercase D. So, yeah. I'm surprised I saw something there, though. Yeah, it's very semantic. Like you have, this is explicit. What you called it is what it is, and you have to target it. So now it works. It's hard when you don't see any errors. When you see errors, it's like, go to the thing because the thing's broken. But when you don't see any errors, jQuery is like, I looked for the thing, it wasn't there, whatever. It's not gonna like blow up in your face and show you any magical errors, okay? Cool. Any other errors, issues? No? Okay, sweet. 8:22. Why don't we take another 5-minute break and then we'll jump into the next select portion.
No, I still want to do this. No, I still want to tired. Staring at it. And then you put it up on the screen. Okay, what is the difference?
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. We got everybody back. Okay. I did update. This is not something you would have known how to do with the transition in and out. You would have known the transition, but we needed to add some JavaScript. I added some JavaScript. I can explain what it does, but I added the link to where I pulled it. I think I had shown when we were talking about transitions, I think I had shown this side. I don't know, does anybody recall? I was like, hey, you could like add some transitions and fade things in. I might have shown it when we were talking about transitions, and I was like, just demoed it as a quick like, hey, this is thing. I don't know, does it ring a bell? No? All right, maybe it was in my own head. I saw it. So they show you how to add several transitions to LIs and transition them in, but you can take a look at it if you're really curious about it. I updated the code to add it, and it was just this little code there. You would have gotten it off the side. There's stuff we just can't teach, but if you Googled like how to transition in, you're going to come up with a solution like that. Okay? All right, we're moving on to attaching a change event to a select. Okay? So what we're looking to do is this. Here I have no dogs, and this is a drop-down. This is a select. And the select, if I choose Husky, it'll go to Husky. If I choose German Shepherd, it goes to German Shepherd. If I choose Labrador, it goes to Labrador. It changes this picture based on. Very similar to like the 3 dots in the Mars thing, right? You click on a dot, would change it, right? This is a different event, and there's some information about this that we can grab that's stored inside of a select. This is what we're starting with. There's nothing here, right? I can click on these things as much as I want. Nothing is going to happen. So let's just take a look at a select. A select here, I'm just giving it an ID of dog. So if there were multiple selects on my page, I can select the one with an ID of dogs, right? Just a target. Selects have options. The first option will be what's seen when the page refreshes in, right? Comes in, whatever you have. So I'm saying select so the user knows what to select. And then the drop-down will show all 4 options. And here I have option where the value is equal to Husky. And then I put Husky as the word that you see. Here the option, the value is equal to German Shepherd. And then German Shepherd is what you see. And then value here is Labrador. And then you would see Labrador as the text. Okay? So value is the key thing here. Okay? Right? When we were grabbing the input, we grabbed the value of the input, right? Whatever the user typed in, we grab that, whatever it is. In a select, the value is stored in here, right? It's not about the user typing something in. It's about what I want this to be. Okay, so this doesn't always have to be a reflection of what you typed exactly. It could be anything. But here I gave them those names for this reason. Okay? I'm going to take a look at the CSS here. Now, look at the CSS. So I'm going to say down here there is this ID of fave dog, which is this. Here's the text, H2, output my favorite dog is. Here's the div that's just defaults to this box. This is just to pull this as a default image. If I were to grab this ID and give it an ID of Husky, what happens? Well, there's a background image to the Husky, right? And then I just added some background position stuff. So don't repeat it, position stuff. So you don't have to worry about this. What's really important is if I give it an ID of Husky, it gets a background image. If I give it an ID of German Shepherd, it gets the background image. And if I give it an ID, a class of Labrador, it gets the background image. Where am I getting these values? Where am I getting the word Labrador from? German Shepherd. Where is it coming from? Yeah, from value, right? So I'm directly correlating whatever these values are with my CSS. So all I have to do is grab the value, assign that value as CSS, and the image changes. That's really all this is at this point in time. Okay? This isn't like the color one where you could type in 1,000 colors, right? So I can't create classes. This is really kind of hard-coded. There's only the things that are in the drop-down that you can choose from. That's it. There's no other way. And I need to know what the images are, right? This would be really difficult if I didn't know what the images were, okay? So how do we do that? Well, let's go into our JavaScript and take a look. What would be, right, once again, if I click on this, we see, all right. So what do you think we would need to do? Just based on doing that, based on what we just did, what do you think would be the first thing I probably want to do here? Grab what? Oh, well, before we get to event default, we got to do something else. Yeah, you're jumping the gun. There's a whole bunch of stuff we got to do before we get to that. Sure, right? So before we grab the value, What would be the first thing that I should grab here? What are we attaching this thing to? To the select, right? Is this the select? And then these would be the values, right? So I would grab the select, element. I'm going to say using it by its ID. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. That makes it hard, right? It's like, hey, I want to play along too. All right. Grab the select element by its ID. I'm saying ID. You don't have to grab the select element by its ID, but if this page had multiple selects, you don't want to grab all the selects and do the same thing on the select. So what would be the next thing? What have we been doing? What's the process? Grab the thing. Okay, well, we have to do something even before that, right? Attach a change event, oh wow, listener to the select, right? Listener to the select. Didn't change anything, right? This has been the process. We grab the thing, we add the event to it, right? That's all we're doing right now, okay? Now that we have it, add a change event to the select that calls the what function. This is where we just make up a name, right? It's going to call a function. Maybe, update image. How about that? Update image, update HTML, whatever you want to call it. That calls, remember, because you call functions, that calls the update function. What do we have to do now? Does the function exist? No, Joe, it doesn't. So please create the update image function. Same steps we did before, right? All right, create the and have it do the following, right? It's really, at this point in time, it's in this function that everything really happens, right? The big bulk of this stuff happens, okay? So we need, at this point in time, we have an idea of dogs, we need to grab the value that was stored inside of it, right? Okay. How do we know what the value was? Why don't we do grab the value of the current selected thing, right, or option, current selected option, just so that we know, okay? What should we do now? Grab the value, because the value represents the class, right? What should I do now? What are we changing? Yeah, we're changing the image, but where are we changing the image on? Is it that thing? Right? If I grab the value is the class. Now I have to assign the value, and I'm going to put here value, class name, right? I'm just, or class, to the ID, to the element with an ID of fave dog. That's it. Really it. Grab the select, attach a change event, calls a function, the function grabs the value and assigns the value as a class to the thing that we want to apply the image to. Okay? Let's get that done. All right, I'm gonna walk through the steps now, right? Okay, maybe I'll do this. No, I'll keep the steps up there separate. All right, so I don't know, select, right, equal to jQuery. We're gonna grab it by its ID. And the ID of the select is called dogs. Dogs. Okay? Once again, console log, hey, this is dogs, or this is select. And let me just see what I get so that I'm always on point. If I see, hey, look, that looks like I grabbed the thing. It says select, right? I know I grabbed it, confirmed it. Type in the console logs or just get used to doing this. It's going to help you out. Attach an event. All right, select. What's the event? Change. That's the event, right? We're attach a change event. Just like the name sounds, change, that's going to call the update image function. Update image function doesn't exist. We get the error message, update image is not defined because we didn't create the thing. So let's create the update image function. Okay. And in here, all I would do is console log, hey, inside the update image function, or clicked, whatever you want. Don't go on and start adding a bunch of code until you know the thing works. And so I would do this, and it works. Okay? 4 lines of code. We're inside the place we need to be in order to make the changes. Couple of console logs. With these 2 console logs, you wouldn't get lost. You wouldn't have created the rest of the code and been like, hey, my thing doesn't work. I'm not getting any errors, but it doesn't work. You know, every time I drop this down, I'm going to see this thing kick off. And I'm like, cool, I'm in here. Awesome. Hey, grab the value of the current selected option. How are we going to do that? Well, let's do this. Since we did grab select, let's see. I'm select selected option. Okay. We have to do this in order to get the image or to get the value. I'm going to say here class name or value. I'm just going to say value. I'm sorry. Let me say value because that's what we're going to be grabbing anyway, right? The value that was stored up there, right? Is equal to select. Let's try this. Select dot val. And then let's just console log this. I'm going to put another console log right here. Console log, this is value. Okay? And let's see if this works. Boom, I got the value. That was it. Same thing. This is no different than an input. Value grabs the value. An input allows you to type in, you grab the value when the thing is executed. Here we grab the value. Now that I have the value, all we have to do is grab the ID of div dog because that's where this image is going to go. And that's the last thing. Assign the value, the class, to the element with an ID of fave dog, right? So grab the element with an ID of fave dog, add a class called value. And that should update it, right? Look at the magic that you can really do with just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines of code, 6 lines of code. And you're able to like change things on a screen, okay? We're just changing like one image, but this thing, the things that you target, could be hundreds of things. Could be elements on a page that one.
It lets you go down on the list, but it doesn't let you go back up. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So once we're down, we're not going back up, huh? All right, so we have to fix that, right? So it was cool, right? We had that many things. Now it's stuck on this thing, right? All right. So let's take a look and see how we're going to change that. I'm just going to refresh. I'm going to make sure Once we do that, all right, if I do Husky, it goes to Husky, it goes to German, but it won't take me back to Husky ever. So that tells me it must be remembering the last thing, right, that maybe we chose, okay? So let's do this. The output text, just looking how we structured it. Okay, build choice name. Toggle class. Here we go. Why do you think that happens? All right. What's that? Yeah, it doesn't eliminate the last class, right? So if we take a look here, let's take a look. And I think we had this issue. When did we have this issue? I think we had this issue last week too, right? Something with adding a class and would add the classes and wouldn't change it. If we chose Husky, that was the first one that German Shepherd, was it Husky? Husky was the first one I chose. So it added a class of Husky. Cool, it worked. I added German Shepherd. It added a class of German Shepherd. Okay. When I go back to Husky, it doesn't remove German Shepherd. It doesn't append German Shepherd towards the end. It says, hey, the thing already has a class of Husky, so I'm not going to add it. But the position of these things, the last class applied precedes or overrides the previous class. So this isn't going to work for us. We would have to figure out a way to remove the previous class, right? In order to get all the classes gone, and then we could then reset and just add whatever we want, okay? So how are we going to do that? Well, what's that? Remove class, right? So what if we knew what the value was, we could remove the previous class, right? Because if we just did this, let's just take a quick look. If I was to just say, first I'm going to say, I don't know, fave dog dot remove class, and let's just see if I remove all class. I don't know if that even works. Like, does removing all classes work? And then we add a class. Let's just take a look. Husky, sweet. German Shepherd, Husky, snap. You know what that does? It removes every class. It's kind of a carte blanche, like, hey, if you had styling added to this thing, it would have removed that styling too, because it removes all classes. For now, it'll work. Probably not the best option, right? Especially if this element on the ID fave dog had specific classes associated with it. Once again, you can give all your CSS to the ID of fave dog and remove all classes, who cares, right? If the ID has all the CSS we need, then that works perfectly fine. I can remove and add these classes, okay? The only other way, and we're gonna stick with this because it's the easiest solution, right? The only other way to deal with this would be to store the current class. I clicked on Husky. Okay, I got Husky. Let's remember that we clicked on Husky. Okay, when you click on German Shepherd, hey, what did we click on last? Grab that value, remove that class, and then add this class, but keep track of this class and repopulate the thing, because we got to keep remembering what we clicked on. That's just more overhead for this right now, okay? I don't want to make it any more complicated than it needs to be.
What about toggle class? Would that work?
Toggle class, well, we could toggle the class if you want to try that. Toggle class is another jQuery method. So let's just do this, fave dog, and if we toggle class. Toggle class will allow you to, I'm just going to comment these out. Let's just see if it works. Toggle class toggles between classes. So let's just see here. I'm going to go to the element. I'm going to target it. So fave dog has nothing. Husky has Husky. Cool. German Shepherd, toggle class works. But it doesn't, because we still have a Husky. What toggle class will do is it'll toggle between things. If it has a class, it removes it. If I go back to Husky, it removes Husky. If it sees the class added, it removes the class. And that's great for like active and then not active, like that. Hey, you clicked on it, toggle the class active, and it'll do a toggle. This isn't the opportunity to use toggle class. We will get into toggle class. That's something we will get into. We get into more like the jQuery animations. We're gonna do slide up, slide down, toggle this, toggle that, okay? Handful of lines of code for this. Not too many lines, fairly easy to implement, okay? Once again, this could get more complicated if we wanted to. Let's take a look. City picks. City picks is a drop down, okay? Let's take a look at what we have in the HTML. It is a select. A select with options. What do you think this value is going to target here? The image, right? It's going to target some CSS, and that CSS is going to have an image. And so if I investigate it here and I go to a little further down here on line 65, look, .nyc background image, SF background image, LA background image, okay? What this will do is if I grab, and in essence, we're going to grab the body to change it, okay? If I grab the body, I can change the background image. So here, user flow. User selects a city from the drop-down menu. The page background changes to the picture assigned to that, assigned in CSS to that city. Okay? Write your pseudocode. I want you to write the steps down this time. Pretty basic steps. Write down the steps that you think need to accomplish this. It's just a handful of steps. But I want to make sure you're thinking it through. We wrote the steps before. What I was targeting very specifically, I want you to do the same thing, okay? I won't be there when you're writing, you know, when you leave the class, it's gonna be like, all right, I wanna write this thing. Like, I don't know where to start. And if you ask me, and I would be like, send me your pseudocode. And you're gonna be like, I didn't write anything. And I'm like, well, then write it, and then send it to me, and then we'll have a conversation, okay? So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna put it over here. I'm gonna grab this one. I will put that over there, right? Slack it out indeed. I did not slack it out. I can't believe I'm not slacking it out today. All right, sorry about that. It's been slacked. Fork it. I slacked out another poll. When you are completed, just click on the completed lab if you're working on the bonus. Oh, I think the bonus we gave away. Okay.
My browser crashed.
Oh,
That's happened to me like 3 times.
Me too.
okay.
I
I almost feel like I'm gonna get blamed for that, but
I was
let me take a look and see. If there's anything in here that would cause it to crash.
It crashes when you change.
All right, so this one doesn't do anything when I change it. So I'm going to see. Let's take a look and see. Might be an issue with the images being loaded over HTTP, but this is being loaded over HTTPS. I'm just looking at the error message there. So just gonna take a quick look and see. That shouldn't really do it. This is the solution and it's working. Fine, it doesn't flip out, doesn't crash. What's that? The toggle may or may not work. I have to test it. I have to see.
Well, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you can go back to Sydney.
Oh, I see. Is this what happens? It's the first time I've seen that. This usually doesn't happen. Yeah, I gotta force this thing to crash. Just quit. That blows it. All of them. Oh, I didn't save it. See the type. Update image. Right. Just trying to work it through here and see what's going on. Function update image. Okay. Let value equal to select.val. Inside of a form. I'm just going to grab the body and add a class of value. See what happens. That works. I don't see why it crashed earlier. It was a little weird. Mine crashed too. Yeah. I mean, you can just send it. Send it to me. Oh, okay. So let me take a look. Okay. I got a lot of things going on up here. I need a moment. I need a moment. All right. I need a moment. All right. So here is your solution here. So you're saying body toggle class value.
So, yeah, like go through all of them.
You go back to NYC, and it won't because it's not removing.
No. Go through all of them.
Okie dokie.
Yeah, see, okay, so now it's like,
You want me to go through all and then go back up to NYC?
okay, now go back to Sydney.
Go back to which one?
Sydney, that's what I do. Yeah, so it works, but then, yeah. So
Yeah, it's not consistent. So
yeah, it's not consistent.
I would take a look at what's happening on the body. Is that where you assigned it? The body? Yeah. So if we do that, it's adding, we're appending them, right? So I'm going to go back to San Francisco. That's what's happening. I'm going to go back to NYC. So what happens is this, with toggle class, if you click on the same value, it's like, let me remove that value. All you're doing is toggling back and forth between the same value. See, NYC was there, right? I go to FS, SF is gone, and it's like, all right, I got nothing. So toggle class isn't really, in this instance, the best thing for us. So let me see for the bonus. Using remove class and add class, use only toggle class. To do toggle class here, what we would have to do is this. This was part of the solution I was kind of talking about earlier. You have to figure out a way to keep track of the previous thing that you clicked on. If you know what you clicked on, you can remove it, all right? We didn't simulate that. But if I knew, just make that suggestion, right? If I did this, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna put a variable outside of here called last image.
Yeah, and then you push it to the array.
Okay. All right, so here, I grab the value and I'm gonna set last image is equal to value, okay? Anytime this function runs, it grabs last image and gives it the value, right? So now I know that that's the current value that's in there, right? But before we do this, before we reset it, I have to go to the body here and first toggle class last image. So what this will do is this. Obviously here there's no last image as of right now, so there's nothing to toggle. But the process is this. Oh, and we have to set last image equal to something. I can't just have it sit there like that. So I'm going to set it to an empty string. What happens is the function runs. Body's like, hey, maybe you clicked on something before, maybe you haven't, right? You've been using this app for a while. You must have clicked on an image. So I'm going to toggle the class to remove that image. All right, I'm going to go here. That image would have been stored or pushed into there doing this. Last image is equal to the value. Okay, so we grab the value, we store the value up here. Now when the function runs the next time, the value is sitting up here and the body can toggle. Then when we go down here, we can just toggle the class value and give it the value now. That should work. This should, we did this. It should work. If I go back to New York, it changes it, right? Once again, this was just additional logic. I kind of threw it out there as like, hey, you have to keep track. How do you keep track of things? Oh, we just need to store it. We've been storing things in variables for a while, which means if I can store something and grab it, there's a good chance I could reset it to something else. We didn't really practice that. I put it as a challenge, right? This thing was so easy, the way that it was set up, that it was like, you would have done it in 5-10 minutes. I just can't give it all. So you could have looked up, hey, how to like toggle things and keep track of things, right? Just a little bit of research. Once again, I'm not going to be there. Heather's not going to be there. We're working on it. This is going to require you to look up some examples.
So after we graduate, like, we're all dead to you?
Well, you know, I have tons of previous classes. Yes, not dead. You've just blossomed and moved on, right? Yeah, well, I do care. All right. So, was there any like pain points in this outside of what we just did with the advanced portion of this, right? If you didn't do that, you could have once again done the remove the class, right? That would have worked. You would have been able to figure this out with the remove the class. It shouldn't have taken, I'm going to probably say, more than like 10 minutes to get that done. That really should have taken you 10 minutes or less with the pseudocode too. Right? The pseudocode would have reflected everything. Did anyone write the pseudocode? I wrote the pseudocode. Yeah, I wrote this. Awesome. All right. I'm just asking because pseudocode is really important. Okay. And I'll give you an example. The day class, they go through this outcomes process. And in outcomes today, they were going through technical interview questions. And so for the technical interview questions, they were asked specific things. Some of these questions were, I'm just going to show you this. I was just looking through it earlier, and I reached out to the students to be like, hey, did the pseudocode that we were working on help you out with this thing? And they're all like, yeah, it really helped. So, Tech Talk outcomes. Here we go. Here was the stuff that they did today. I don't know if anyone can see it, right? They were asked these questions. You will be, even for front-end developer jobs, you're going to be asked some of these things. Trust me, front-end requires you answer algorithms, even if your job does not have to do with doing this stuff every day. I'm going to build you a responsive website, and they're going to be like, all right, reverse the string of text. And you're going to be like, what the hell does that have to do with like responsive web design and adding accessibility? It doesn't, but they need to weed out people, and this is the process that's happening now. There's just no way around it. And they were giving these, and they were paired up in groups, and they had to walk through this. And part of this process, and they had an engineer who was kind of walking them through stuff. Somebody from Adobe was there, an engineer from Adobe. And he stressed the importance of these coding challenges as being, one, you have to ask questions. Always ask the interview questions. Come up with a question like, I don't know, give an array of integers, write a function that returns a sorted list of duplicates in the array. Your brains are probably like, what the hell is he talking about? I don't know what's going on, right? Maybe something like this, write a function that tests if a string contains a word from a predefined list, right? Have a list of words. Does this string of text contain them, right? There's a process to do that. You could ask things like, I don't know, is it possible that the string of text is empty? That's one question I could think of, like that you gave me an empty string. If you gave me an empty string, I'm just gonna be like, nothing there, return, nothing to talk about, okay? But the pseudocode, they were asked, he stressed the pseudocode, that you must write down pseudocode, which is what I'm stressing for you. We write down pseudocode together. I give you the opportunity to write it on your own, but you must, on these interviews, write pseudocode. If you do not, you fail the interview. They will not let you pass. It's about asking questions because this is a process. These coding challenges are a process, and the process involves asking questions, pseudocoding, and then doing the problem. Those are the three things. You can't go into the interview just thinking, I'm going to solve it, because you didn't do the process. That's what they're looking for. You're following the rules, and the rules say you do these things in this order. You solving the problem is not going to get you the job, okay? So they were just like, hey, it was really good. I think one of my students, and I reached out to her, I just asked her, I said, oh, you would have been so excited. The senior dev talked extensively how important algos are in the interview process. He gave us pointers on how to navigate them. For example, the first thing you do is ask qualifying questions and not jump into writing. Then we had to practice talking through the algos, and that was much harder, okay? Because we had practiced algos just the week before, and everyone was like, man, this is crazy, I gotta do this, and they either hated it or they loved it, and now it paid off because they see really what you're up against when you're doing front-end dev. So that's why I stress. I didn't write any pseudocode here, but this is that was your solution, right? Grab this select element ID, attach a change event to the event listener, create the update image function, right? Pretty much the same thing. Wasn't really like mind-blowing what else to do. You just, it's gonna be like that, all right? Cool. I don't know if that's cool. How's everyone feeling about JavaScript and jQuery at this point? It's a big, like, last week seems forever ago, right? Last Thursday is like, last Thursday we did jQuery and JavaScript. Wow, that's crazy. We did some of this stuff last week because I don't really recall a lot of it. This isn't going to be easy unless you do it every day. What I want you to do is, now that you know more about jQuery and what it can do for you and events and what these things, ask yourself for your final project what you want to do, okay? I was talking to someone today about the final project, and their idea was, I'm going to grab this API from Google Translate, and I'm going to translate stuff. And I was like, whoa, We didn't get to APIs, and we're not going to get that in class 19. And I'm going to tell you that's going to be crazy complicated. Don't do that. You know what? Have a slider. Boom. Give me a web page that's responsive with a little slider or little buttons that you click on and it changes. That suffices to pass the class. Do something that you're going to be successful at, not something that's like over the moon that we haven't covered. If you want to tackle that on, by all means, I don't even know how to do that with the Google API. So you're going to come to me like, I looked at it, I don't know how to do it. I'm going to be like, yeah, I don't know how to do it. It's going to take me hours to figure it out. I expect it's going to take you longer to figure it out. Think about the most basic thing that you can do. Start small. Make it responsive. Is it cool? It's responsive. Cool. I want to add like a slider. I want to add some other transitions. When I transition down, I scroll, things come in. We'll cover scroll. There's scroll examples. You could do that. Focus in on something small. You know how to capture input. I'm just going to have a form where somebody types their name and I collect it. Sold, pass. The thing's responsive, awesome. Okay? That's all it has to be. Do not stress out. Do not create something that is completely beyond the time frame. Not beyond your skill set, but beyond the time frame that you have to do the thing. Okay? All right, that's my encouraging speech there. That really helps. Thank you, Heather. Thank you. All right. Any questions on any of the material, how it may apply to your project, anything like that? Just feel like nervous stares and like, I'm not really sure. You know, you just keep throwing more stuff at us. And there's more stuff to come. Okay? You know, we have a little time, but I'm just going to show you, expose you to what we will be doing in the next couple of days. We only have a few more minutes anyway. Then we'll do exit tickets, and we'll get out for the day. So my little staging thing, we did jQuery. We're going to be going through conditions and loops. Conditions are things like, if the image was German Shepherd, do this. If it was Husky, do the other thing, right? There's a lot of times you use this conditional logic to do this. You have to know that in JavaScript. Loops are things like, I have a list of colors that I want to create. How do I go through the list and grab the color red, create the thing? Grab the color pink, create the thing. So loops are really important. Class 17, we're going to go through working with jQuery animation. Things like hide, show, fade in, fade out, accordions, okay? 18, we'll go through arrays and objects, other data types. Class 19 is APIs. Okay, that's when we'll grab some data. You'll loop through it. Once again, you only learned it on class 19, so it's really hard, you know, hey, I'm going to really apply it. But some people do. Some people just kind of been investigating it. And then the last class is presentations. You'll present. But that's what we have in store. So if you're like, man, I wanted to loop over things, all right, well, you have to wait to class 18 to get to that. But you can always look at stuff. Okay? Cool. Yeah. I'm just going to go back here just to cover the homework real quick, and then have you do the exit ticket. The homework is continue to work on your mobile responsive layouts, right? If it's up here, get it over here, right? Draw it up, give me something. The sooner you draw something up, the sooner you can build it out. If it's not drawn, you're going to struggle. And then in free code camp, since we're doing conditional logic, if you go here, there's 17 steps that I just kind of want you, and you know how easy free code camp is. It's the easiest thing to go through. You're going to go through these conditional things here and take it to step 17. So if I went here to the JavaScript, there's the JavaScript, and basic JavaScript, right? It'd be something with the conditional, forgot what I clicked on. Right, reusable functions. Let me just say, what did I say? To the golf code. There we go. There's a thing in here that actually says golf code, right here. Golf code. From here, I think, practice maybe comparisons like up here all the way down to this. And these are pretty easy. It's just like, click. It'll take you a few minutes in the morning, bang out 2 or 3, bang out 2 or 3 in the afternoon. I'm just pushing you to do it. You don't have to do it. It's just going to make you're going to understand the material better if you do it. Questions? Thought the class was going to be easy, right? I'm just going to learn some HTML and CSS, and it's just going to be a piece of cake. This is front-end web development. I'm just giving it to you like it is. I'm not trying to sugarcoat it. Awesome. Heather, did you send it out? You going to send it out? Send it out. She's almost ready. Heather's almost ready. Heather. We'll send out the exit ticket. She did. She's on point. She was just waiting for her cue. Cue.